Welcome back to 5 Minute Fantasy Football, presented to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. They were talking Houston Texans. They were a great turnaround team last year. CJ Stroud did what most rookie quarterbacks can't do and took his team to the playoffs. He also was able to help Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz get big contracts. And the team has done everything they can this offseason to build around him, take advantage of that rookie contract, and add some pieces. Before we do that, make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy, play some best ball, do some NFL pick'ems. Use promo code FFSGPN so they know he sent you. So let's look at Mike Clay's projections to give us a guide of what to expect from the Houston Texans. And then we'll talk about Sleeper ADP to see what does it cost to acquire these guys. So CJ Stroud, he's projected to finish as the quarterback 7. He's going off the board as QB 6. So right about where Mike has him and Sleeper have him is about the same. 4,449 yards through the air, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Very similar season to last year. A little bit more on the touchdowns, a little bit more on the interceptions. Last year had 23 touchdowns and he had 5 interceptions, and had a little bit more passing yards than he does in this projections. But these are also just 15 games. But on the ground, he's got 45 rushing attempts, 182 yards, and 3 touchdowns. What do you think about these projections? Do you think he's got higher or lower than 27 passing touchdowns? And QB7, he doesn't offer a lot of rushing upside, but the passing touchdowns, if he were to get 30 or 35, could really help, especially if you can keep those interceptions down like last year. Right now, Joe Mixon's projected to get 228 carries. Dameon Pierce, his backup, is 79 carries. So this gives him 937 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns in 14 games. He finishes the PPR running back 13. He's going off the board as RB16 right now. So a little bit later than where Mike projects him to finish. And through the air, he's got him pretty busy. 54 targets, 42 receptions, 297 yards. And that's 3 receiving touchdowns. So that gives him 10 total touchdowns and about 1,300 yards, 1,200 yards, all purpose. And that's in 14 games. What do you think about this for Joe Mixon? And what do you think about the backups? Cam Akers looked great in the preseason game. He might earn some more time. Dare Ogunbowale has been a great special teams player. He should make the team. And then Dameon Pierce, he's also contributing on special teams, should be in line for the handcuff. He's going off the board really late if you want a cheap handcuff. But last year, he did not look good in this offense. Devin Singletary took his job. Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs, and Tank Dell are all getting drafted in the top 53 picks. We have a wide receiver 14 for Nico Collins, wide receiver 16 for Stefon Diggs, and wide receiver 26 for Tank Dell. That's very high for 3 guys together, and they're almost the same as far as the projections from Mike Clay. Mike Clay has him projected to finish as 14, 18, and 30. So he has Dell going a little bit higher than his projections, and Stefon Diggs and Nico Collins a little bit. Actually, Nico Collins is right in line. Got him for 14 as he's going off the board as 14. Stefon Diggs he's got as 18. He's going off the board at 16. What do you think about this? You have over 100 targets for each player. 118 going to Nico, 130 to Diggs, 112 to Tank Dell. So that has Diggs as the highest target getter. 77 receptions for Nico, 86 for Diggs, and 70 for Tank. That's pretty spread evenly. So you could see a different flavor each week. He's got 1,057 yards for Nico, 1,039 yards for Diggs, and 933 for Tank Dell. The reason Nico scores a little bit more points is he's got 7 touchdowns. The other 2 get 6. So what do you think about this? This means there's going to be a lot of three receiver sets, a lot of passing, and this is pretty high volume, but this is not a huge target share that Stefon Diggs is accustomed to. And Stefon Diggs has let us down 2 seasons in a row where he's really not been good the second half of the season. We don't know if that's because of the way the defenses play. We don't know. They've had some offensive coordinator issues in Buffalo the last 2 seasons. That's kind of the reason he's out of town. But I don't know if Diggs is going to be able to match this based on this offense. And I think Nico's the one. But Nico is getting drafted pretty high at 14. When you can get other guys that don't have as many mouths to feed on their offense. There's not really many other players on here. You have Noah Brown and John Mechie, but with Stefon Diggs and Nico Collins, Tank Dell, those guys are definitely afterthoughts, and I wouldn't draft them. Dalton Schultz, last 3 seasons, he's been a top 10 tight end. He went from Dallas to Houston and still did well. And so he got paid, he got extended, and he's going to be in Houston until 2026. But he's probably the odd man out in this situation. He's getting drafted at 108, tight end 15, and that's almost exactly where Mike has him projected. He's got him at PPR tight end 16 for his finish. That's 77 targets, 53 receptions, 538 yards with 4 touchdowns. Schultz is a guy that I would consider as a late round option, maybe as a backup. If one of these guys goes down, whether it's Diggs, Collins, or Dell, he might be the guy that benefits the most. But the way it's currently slated, I'm not interested in Schultz. I think he's going to be the odd man out. And, he might get a few touchdowns every once in a while, but you're having a tough time projecting when that's going to happen. And there's just too many mouths to feed. You really prefer to have your tight ends as the top 2 in targets on your team. And he's at least number 4, if not number 5 on the pecking order here. And I think his days top 10 tight end might be over. So this was the Houston Texans. This is 5-Minute Fantasy Football. Hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think about these Houston Texans. And as always, good luck this season.